Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders reach a deal on delegates to the national convention. Oh my God. I know, because at this point, this is an article from The Hill, but let me just start with just my opinion on this thing right now. With the allegation of the Tara Reade story right now happening, and with the whole hashtag fire Chris Hayes, mind you, I did a perspectives on that. That video will be premiering tomorrow. Look, Joe Biden is a flawed candidate, and it's not just only Tara Reade, but there are 7 other women that have stepped forward talking about their stories of sexual abuse and harassment. But this was going on even before the Tara Reade story even happened. I mean, look, this Joe Biden character, this Joe Biden that everyone's saying is going to somehow beat Trump. I mean, seriously, Bernie, unsuspend your campaign. I mean, time to fight back, but obviously you're not. So what's going on for this convention? I have no idea. Former Vice President Joe Biden's presidential campaign has reached a deal with Senator Bernie Sanders that will allow the progressive former White House hopeful to keep hundreds of delegates to the Democratic National Convention this summer. Look, myself and Daniel were in Philly when that convention was happening in 2016. And you know what? I don't believe them. I remember how the DNC treated Bernie Sanders supporters and delegates and volunteers and Green Party people because they refused to support Hillary Clinton because the Clinton campaign wasn't giving them any kind of concessions. I find it hard to believe that they're going to keep hundreds of delegates there. So the deal was designed to give Sanders and his supporters a say at the nominating convention in August, despite his decision earlier this month to suspend his presidential campaign. It's the latest move aimed at promoting party unity. Hooray! Party unity around a guy who has 8 sexual allegations against them, and avoiding a drawn-out political fight like the one that emerged between Sanders and the eventual, quote unquote, nominee Hillary Clinton during the 2016 Democratic presidential primary. The agreement was outlined in a joint memo from the Biden-Sanders team sent to state Democratic parties on Thursday. While Sanders is no longer actively seeking the nomination, the Biden campaign feels that strongly that it is in the best interest of the party and the effort to defeat Donald Trump in November to come to agreement regarding the issues that will ensure representation of Sanders supporters and delegate candidates both on the floor and in the committee, the memo reads. So party rules say, because party rules say that Sanders should lose about a third of the delegates he amassed from the primaries and caucuses because he's no longer running for the nomination. Under the deal struck by the two teams, statewide and at-large delegates, which make up about a third of the total delegate count, will be allocated to Biden in order to comply with party rules, but Biden's campaign will work with Sanders teams to fill those slots with supporters of the Biden-Sanders campaigns based on the candidates' respective statewide results, regardless of the status of Senator Bernie Sanders' campaign, according to the memo. We must defeat Donald Trump this fall, and we believe that this agreement will help bring the party together and get Trump out of the White House, not only to build America, but transform it, the memo reads. All right, so I'm done reading that propaganda crap. Here's my thoughts. Here's my analysis on it. I think it's BS. I think the Democratic Party is going to still dictate its terms. Yes, there will be Sanders delegates there, but here's the sad result. They're only going to get half measures. And dealing with the Democratic Party, let us not forget that there was election fraud during this 2020 primary, that there was polling stations being shut down, that there was voter suppression, that there were long lines, and in fact that the primaries were still being held, especially here in Illinois, during the height of the COVID-19 crisis. So, I mean, I guess we could all just put on our rose-colored glasses and just think, hey, everything's nice. Yeah, Biden and Sanders are getting along just fine. But, oh, wait, there's something wrong with Biden. He clearly is showing signs of dementia. He has this story about Tara Reade that's starting to gain more and more traction because, again, like her story's adding up. More people are confirming that something happened to Tara Reade. Something did happen. And Joe Biden, yes, he should get due process. But this does not convince me, nor does it get my vote to Biden. I'm voting third party because I don't respect Joe Biden. I don't respect his policies. I don't respect who he is as an individual. I don't respect his hypocrisy. And I don't respect the fact that he has abused his power and has been on the wrong side of history. And if that makes me a bad guy, then you know what? Hey, I voted third party in 2016. And you know what? I'll do it again. Daniel, Jerome, take it away.
Yeah, I think that this is perhaps not the greatest news that we wanted to hear ever, though I don't really think it affects all that much because we basically went from a point of view of, hey, Bernie Sanders wants to keep getting delegates to do things there, and now he just negotiated that. I'm not really sure what this gets us, what this aims. Does this do anything? Are we going to get any concessions? But any way this plays out, let's just look at this even through an optimistic point of view, which we can't really. Wow, don't you feel great that for the last 4 years, Bernie Sanders has been preparing to run so that we can get a few more concessions from the DNC that they're not going to follow through in the next cycle anyway? That's awesome. Wonderful. Just what I wanted. I think that's what all of us put our time and effort into, is to get a few concessions from the DNC for the next election. Good job.
Yeah, this is not what I signed up for. It does beg me to ask, because I'm not in the forefront of it. So, if there's any guesses, are there any guesses on what Sanders is really trying to get out of this? Like what kind of concessions they're trying to make?
He'll weaken super delegates further. Maybe he'll move to paper ballots, which actually wouldn't be bad.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's not.
If he does do these things, or whatever they negotiate on, is that something that's transparent with the people? Will we know what those? No. Okay. I guess not. I guess I'm too hopeful, like hoping I at least know what they negotiated the terms for, but I guess not. Okay. Well, all right. I don't know. Whatever.
So here's how I feel about this whole situation, especially when it comes down to somebody like Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders now working alongside his campaign. I mean, at this point, I think we all want to live in the world where somehow Bernie Sanders unsuspends his campaign and says, you know what, we got to deal something with Trump, but we also, Biden's a flawed individual. Here's what we got to address, and that is we have to look for alternatives. And I'm done working with the DNC. I'm done working with a party that's going to cover up someone, Joe Biden, who has not 1 but 8 accusations, and probably there's going to be more people who are going to step forward pretty soon. I am not going to rally around a guy who has no empathy for millennials, or hasn't apologized for the 1996 crime bill, or apologize for the 2005 bill for the credit card corporations that made student debt for what it is. So I'm going to vote third parties, and I'm going to promote third parties. And of course, look, that doesn't solve the problem, because we got to get money out of politics, and we have to change the way we run elections in this country. But that's the only positive I could take away from this. So Bernie, you had a chance. All of this right now was in your hands. Do you have a situation that was tailor-made for you to fight for Medicare for all and debt forgiveness and fight for climate change, and you quit? You didn't lose, you quit. And I'm probably not as angry like Jimmy Dore and Nico House. I know that they I have every right to be furious, because they have worked. They've literally known people from the Sanders campaign. I mean, Jimmy Dore was, I know in 2016, kind of close to some people in the Sanders campaign. I think even did a few rallies here and there, but I don't want to speak for them. But I mean, at this point, I mean, I'm done with Bernie. We got to move on. We got to leave, and that's it. And I'm being nice about it. Others can be angrier, and they have every right to be angry about it. But I mean, Bernie, you could have fought. You just could have fought, and that's just me being polite about this. You could have fought for everything that you really believed in. You could have really led this momentum, and you could have had the DNC on its knees, but you didn't.
I think that's the thing. I'm like, yeah, I just feel cheated about the whole thing. That's all. I mean, and I guess that's, and like Daniel, you said it before. We can't put these people up on pedestals and hope that they're the saving grace, because
again, we have to remember, we can't have political heroes. Again, people confuse where power lies. Power effectively lies within each individual, but really more accurately in the power structures of groups of individuals. So again, if you want to get Bernie Sanders elected, the reason that I thought Bernie Sanders was why I followed him was very straightforward. It was Bernie Sanders is taking money in a way that I appreciate, and he's not taking money in a way that I appreciate. He's also surrounding himself with people that I agree with. And again, I think it's just a very easy way to look at things, is to look at it like that. But then what we realize is some of the people he surrounded himself were actually not as good as we thought they were. And Bernie Sanders came off as, hey, I have this thing in my back pocket, I'm ready to go at it. But Bernie Sanders was closer to the DNC than we thought. We learned lessons too, that if I could, I feel like if I had that information going back, what would I have done differently? Well, I probably wouldn't have donated his campaign. That's first. I would have not talked I would have talked a little more, hey, Bernie, you're gonna screw this if you don't act X, Y, or Z. But again, Bernie Sanders exists because he is propped up by millions of people donating, volunteering, surrounding him, etc. So where power lies is in small businesses, is in people, is in family units just grouped together. Now, that's one reason churches have so much political power, is because they have groups of families that come to them every single week that they get to say stuff to, even though they technically shouldn't. So what I'm trying to say is I'm sort of in the background, starting to work on a little thing to try and actually give us real power. So one thing I ask of everyone watching, if you want to do something, start talking to families around you, start talking to small business owners around you, people who are unhappy with the current system. Let's get them to start putting their money elsewhere.
Yeah. And let's start walking away from the two-party system. Now, look, they're voting third party. That's a great thing to do. But like I've said on the show before, you know, maybe earlier on, I was really idealistic about third parties. But you got to change the way we run elections in this country. We have to have election integrity. I'm going to say it again one more time for the people in the back. Election integrity is key, because third parties and political organizations that are fighting for progressive or independent policies can get co-opted, and it's a very sad fact in this country. Money in politics is crippling our democracy, so we got to fight on all fronts, and all of us can step up and fight for that better future.